my fourth semester of my master's program, and I decided I didn't want to go to dental school anymore. So I bought a bunch of books on becoming a pharmaceutical sales rep and like how to get into that. And I was working one Saturday, and this guy that would come and ring up our shoe sales, I was the number one shoe salesman in famous bar at that time. So I was very busy selling shoes. So they would have people come and ring up our sales. This guy lived in his mom's basement. He was probably 45 years old. He wore white tennis shoes with his dress slacks. And he, for some reason, remembered that I was going to go to dental school. And he said, "Oh, have you got into dental school yet?" And I said, "No, I'm not going anymore." And he was like, "Oh, you should be a chiropractor." And that was it. And that's why I'm a chiropractor.
Nice. So have you, were you at a chiropractor before?
I did some research. I did some research like later that night because I just like brushed them off. But then I was just like, I mean, the same reasons I wanted to become a dentist, it fit for chiropractic. I could be my own boss. I could be a doctor, da, da, da. And luckily, like chiropractic was a perfect fit for me. I didn't realize at the time. But then I started doing some research, and I was at Logan, like, I think it was like 35 days later, I was in school.
Wow. And did you ever go to a chiropractor before that? Never. Okay.
First adjustment was in student clinic.
Nice. So what was your first experience like when you were actually getting adjusted? Any like life-changing effects?
No life-changing effects, but it was great. Like my student clinic doctor was awesome. And I think he was my roommate at the time, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. But I'd always kind of like naturally believed, you know, that the body heals itself. And like, I just didn't realize that it was the chiropractic philosophy until I got into school. And then my first trimester, I'm like, oh man, this is a perfect fit for me. Like, it was great.
Yeah. Well, cool. Let's dive into your, like, growing a practice. And now you said you had 2 practices since opening up in 2006. Now, are you currently at 1 practice? What happened to the first, or do you have both still?
Yeah, so I bought the practice I had an associateship with for like the first 2 months of my career. The guy offered to sell it to me. It was a satellite clinic. And so I bought that in 2006 from him. It ended up netting out that I paid $7,000 for that practice that was profiting $10,000 a month. So that was a really good deal. And that allowed me to be profitable right away. And then I thought I was such a smart business person because I could make this 40 visit a week practice in a town of 4,000 work well. And like, anyway, I was impressed with my business acumen back then. Mm-hmm. And in 2007, I started from scratch in the town that I lived in, which was about 25 miles away. And I got a $100,000 loan, had 0 patients. And then I was running 2 practices. I was 3 days a week in one, 3 days a week in the other. And I think it was about a year later, about a year and a half later, the stress finally caught up to me. I ended up having a heart attack at 30 from the stress of trying to run 2 practices and learn how to run a business at the same time. I was staying up till 3 a.m. I was, adjusting all day, every day, and still trying to like do all the other stuff. And I had no staff. I had no idea what I was doing. So it was, if your listeners get any inspiration from me, it will be to not try to do everything.
So what was that transition like from doing everything to perhaps finding a team? Like, did you go and find a new staff member at then? Did you hire an associate?
Well,
what did you do?
When I had my heart attack, the first thing I did was fire the one staff member I had because she was a big source of the stress. Mm. But then I started on a path of trying to figure out, okay, I'm not like, I wasn't willing to die for 2 mediocre chiropractic practices. So I was like, what do I need to do? What team do I need to build to be able to manage this and do these things? And so I started I hired another, front desk person, which was a disaster as well. But I started trying to get training on like how to be better in business, but then also how to get associates. Because I knew that in my opinion, there are 2 things that chiropractors do, and it's run a business. Like if you own a practice, it's run the business and it's see the patients. And I was really bad at like taking the business hat off and putting the doctor hat on and back and forth. So I realized I needed to pick one, and I liked the business side of it more. I love chiropractic, but I don't like having to physically be there every day, seeing patients. So I knew that other people, I mean, that's what we go to school for, we were trained to be practitioners. So I felt like the thing that I was better at was the business side of it. So that's what I decided that I was going to focus on. So I started down the path of finding associates that could treat the patients. And I mean, I got my first associate in my Petersburg practice, which was my first practice, when I was seeing like 40 people a week. I got my first associate in my Springfield practice when I was seeing like 30 people a week. So I was like between the two offices seeing, I think, like 75 people a week when I got associates in each one of them. So it's not like I was seeing 300 people and I had all this money that I could then pay someone. I mean, it was not an ideal situation of how I did it, but it got done.
And now you're down to one practice?
Yeah, I'm sorry. And I sold the small town practice eventually to one of the associates.
Oh, cool. Okay. And so now, where was now you have a media company. Now, where did this come into play after all of that?
Well, this kind of came out of the next iteration of trying to remove myself as the bottleneck in the practice, because once I had the associates to see the patients, then I was responsible for the marketing and the business building side of it. Mm-hmm. But as things started to go more and more digital, because I built my practice on spinal screenings and phone books, and I didn't do a lot of outside talks, but basically like boots on the ground, like person to person stuff.
Yep.
When things started to go more digital, I don't really have that skill set to like sit down and edit a video, or sit down and I can create the content. I can come up with the ideas and the strategy, but what I'm not good at is doing all of the detail work once that's been done, which is where a lot of doctors get stuck. So I hired a marketing director who was good at those things. And when I did that, I realized that that's what chiropractors really needed. I had gotten frustrated with my whole career. I had bought lots of courses and lots of information on what I should do, but then nothing ever happened because I'm a visionary person, not an integrator or an implementer. And I need those people around me. And I didn't realize that at the time. And I think that most chiropractors, because we're so busy, they also need somebody to do it for them. So that's where we decided to start Leverage Media, was to basically the strategies that were working in my own practice with content creation, because it's a content marketing agency. So the content marketing side of things, there's a lot of detail, technical work that most doctors aren't going to be good at. So that's what we developed to make sure that we could get the message of chiropractic out more around the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to ask this on probably behalf of all of the docs that I speak to that have that same problem currently, where they're very visionary, and then they look at the next ClickFunnels or e-course that might bring them new patients, and then they buy the program, they learn it, they say they're going to do it, they don't do it because, like you said, they're more visionaries versus integrators. Now, how did you go overcome that? Like, I know you hired the marketing director, but was that the only change you made?
Yeah, I just had to get, because I'll say this about chiropractors and marketing. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they're actually visionaries. I don't think most chiropractors do not have any good ideas when it comes to marketing. Like, they don't know enough about it. It's not like their passion. They may be visionaries in terms of like their practice or in chiropractic, but marketing is, just because you run a business doesn't mean you're entrepreneurial. Just because you like let's say they like the marketing side of it, if they don't have the skill set or the training to understand it at like the level of somebody who's like really passionate about it, then it's hard to be a visionary because you don't even know what you don't know. So like when I talk to a lot of doctors that are like super smart and like that they are visionaries like in general, but they just don't know enough about marketing to have any like of their own unique great ideas. And then they also are just naturally not implementers. So they A, don't have the great ideas, and they B, don't have the implementation skills. So the marketing just never gets done. That's why they fall victim to buying the courses, because with the course, those are usually put together by somebody who does have a good idea. And so they'll sell them the idea, but then if they don't have the implementation piece, it falls apart. Some courses will just teach you, like, here are the steps on how to do a podcast. They'll just give you the implementation piece, but they don't have any of the idea for like how to make it work for your specific situation, right? Mm-hmm. So usually when you buy something, you're buying one or the other. And if you're a natural born implementer, then you can buy information and then go and do it. That's usually the people that do the best with information. People like me who just like new ideas, I buy lots of information. Still to this day, there's never-ending information to buy for digital marketing. So I buy lots of information, and I don't always get around to watching all of it or consuming all of it, just because that's just like the way I am. Like I'm always like trying to learn, and I just kind of take my like 10-15% from each thing and then just start to, Frankenstein it together.
Yeah, I feel you. I was definitely at that point at one time, and I was like, I just have to implement. I have to do it. It's gone too far.
I've told myself that a million times, and no matter how many times I tell myself, I'm still not going to do it. And I made that realization. And this is like one thing that I think chiropractors are bad about, is they try to Superman everything instead of just recognizing, like I'm so honest with myself that I recognize that I'm just not ever going to implement the things that I want to, and I'll just end up getting frustrated. So I surround myself in all my businesses, I surround myself with natural doers. And the situations where I have the most efficient doers around me, those are the companies that do the best for me.
Yeah. Now with having the doers and hiring the doers, did you heard that marketing director, is there a certain point that a doctor should wait to hire someone of that caliber, or just for that specific a duty or task, or should they learn the things on their own first? Because again, I've had friends that have been duped by people say that they're marketing gurus, that they can get them 47 new patients a month from this next funnel. What will be the action step for a doctor listening right now to move forward in actually implementing any sort of marketing strategies, or even hiring someone to do that?
So there's a difference between hiring like an employee and hiring an agency. Mm-hmm. I'll start with the employees. I'm a big believer in just like, if you think that having that person is going to grow your business more than they cost you, then you're losing money by not hiring them. And it probably works the same with like an agency. Like if you hire my agency and you think that me doing your marketing versus you doing nothing, or you doing, your bad version of marketing, if you think that I'm better equipped to take your ad spend plus my agency fee and I can get you more than I cost you, then you're losing money if you're doing nothing, then you're losing money by not hiring me, right? Mm-hmm. And I can promise you that I'm better at spending your ad spend than you are. But when it comes to like hiring an employee, like with the marketing director, I wasn't really in a situation where I should have been bringing on, $50,000 a year employee with no real guarantee. Like we didn't really have a real strategy going into it. I just knew that I had read Gary Vee's jab, 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 right hook. I really resonate with content marketing. Like I feel like you should be providing value when you're marketing to people. And so I knew that I needed a marketing director that could help me with the content creation part of it. And so I got lucky. Like I only interviewed one person, and I just got lucky with the person that I hired. But even if she wouldn't have worked out, I was so convinced that this was, I think that every chiropractor in 2020 and beyond is going to have to get serious about creating content and becoming a media company in their practice. And the ones that don't do that are going to start to get left behind. and the ones that the older doctors, like people that are my age and older, that were used to everything being like hard work and nose to the grindstone stuff. They're going to start to lose market share to people like you that are younger, that understand the content and the digital side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily I like adapt. And so like, I hopefully won't get caught by some young upstart kid in my town. But the ones that just like bury their head in the sand, they're going to start to see their lunch getting eaten, because the internet allows you to communicate to people in a way that you can't really do on a scalable level with lunch and learns or dinner talks or spinal screenings. So
Yeah.
I think that you should hire people as soon as you like really believe in your heart and soul that you're going to be able to make more money with them than without them. That's the moment to hire them, even if you're not ready. Like I said, I hired my first associates in my 2 practices when I was seeing 30 and 40 people a week. So like, I'm not a big believer in like, you have to like learn it yourself. Like they can like, learn how to hire somebody the right way. But outside of that, I don't know that you have to know it all before you hire somebody.
I guess it's more about being a leader versus, or being a leader that can manage the right people, if that makes sense, into the system that you integrate. But
I think that leadership, it's hard to like read books about leadership. Like the way that you become a better leader is by leading people and like screwing up, getting better. Like I just took a break from our annual attraction meeting. And we like with my leverage team, and we just had the section where we say like, what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of each person individually. And one of my team members said that my strength was that I'm really good at like listening to them and supporting them and always like checking in to see if there's any way that I can help them. That is not the way that I started when I started hiring people. But I've realized that that's a really important part, and that I have to actively do that, or because I don't naturally do those things. And so I have to like force myself to always make sure I'm checking in with people, because that's what they need. Right.
Now let's dive into this. I want to talk about that path to a million and how you've broken it down. So I was listening to one of your podcasts with actually Dr. Clint Steele, who will be on with me right after this. But
he just messaged me, as a matter of fact.
Did he? But from 0 to $250,000 in terms of practice. Now we're talking collections, right? Not just not net collections.
Yeah.
Okay, so from 0 to 250, you said that it was all about the hustle, essentially getting to the networks, doing BNIs, spinal screenings, talks. Anything that you'd like to elaborate on that? Like maybe dive into a little bit more.
Yeah, I just to give a little bit of context, the structure for my podcast is I find doctors who are currently practicing to interview that accelerated through one of 3 stages, or they're currently over $1 million. So 0 to 250 in under a year, 250 to 500 in under 2 years, 500 to $1 million in under 3 years, or they're currently over $1 million. So what I do is I try to find people that have accelerated through as many of those as possible and ask them just like, what was the thing that made a difference? So all the people that I've interviewed that are over $1 million and that like really crushed that 0 to 250 stage, every one of them, no matter if they started 20 years ago or if they started 6 or 7 years ago, that 0 to 250 was all about, and it's not even really so much about like the results of what they did, of the like on the ground marketing. I think it was more about like the person that they had to be to really get out there and hustle and really put themselves out there. And so whatever they learned in that 0 to 250 of just like nose to the grindstone, not taking no for an answer. One of my best interviews, I think, was with Michael Viscarelli. and with Amped. And he talked about his 0 to 250 and how they launched, because they started from nothing. And he said that he added like 12,000 contacts in the first 90 days of their practice. And it was, I mean, he was like walking neighborhoods. He was going to I think they said they did like, I don't know, some hundreds of networking events, like one-on-one or small groups. And that 0 to 250, it's like, you got to want it. You have got to like actually want to blow up. Another good interview about the 0 to 250 process is, oh my God, why am I blanking right now? With Josiah Fitzsimmons.
Mm-hmm.
He, within, I think it was 2.5 years, he's already at $1 million.
Wow.
And I think actually he was within $1 million within like 18 months or something. But that one was like a really good one, because he's only been in practice for 2.5 years. So his is like really fresh. Some of the doctors that I've interviewed, you know, their 0 to 250 was, you know, 20, 25 years ago. So it's not exactly the same as it is now. But honestly, the people that blew up now in the last like 5 to 6 years, they're doing the same stuff that they were doing 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Now, from 250 to 500,000, I guess you talked about more so it almost being doing something that naturally resonates with the person. Like say it's a lunch and learn, and just optimize on that. If that's converting people from 1 to 3, you should put all your most of your focus, I should say, on that. Now, you also said that it was more so about being turning into a mission-focused practice. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say that the 250 to 500 stage, there's probably 3 things that I've found pretty similar amongst all the doctors. One is they'll find some marketing thing that really works for them.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's spinal screenings, dinner talks, Facebook content, like whatever it is, they'll find like that one, because when you get to the 250 stage, you're usually by yourself, like you don't have an associate. And so you're busier in practice. So you don't have time to do everything. So you have to kind of like focus in on like, what's that thing that you want to make sure you get done. The second thing is yeah, if you make it a mission-based practice, everything becomes easier. So when you have a North Star that you're working towards, it's something that you can always, because the 250 to 500 stage, I think is a little bit tricky, because that's when it starts to, you like work your ass off to get to the 250 stage. And now sometimes people get a little bit lost in the stage. I see a lot of doctors who get stuck at that level. And I think it's because they don't have that North Star that they're working towards. And then the third thing is the 1 to 3 that you said. Almost all of them say, what I got good at was asking for referrals. So now that I had a base flow of people coming into the office, now turning 1 patient into 3 patients by getting their family or their coworkers or friends, that's how you start to grow without having to always be outside of the practice.
Okay. Now let's go to the next level, which is 500K to 1 million. And that's a pretty big number for a lot of people in a lot of offices. I would, I've done a lot of interviews. I try to interview people across the spectrum of, whether they're fresh out of school to, 25 years, 35 years into practice. But it's a little weird that like some of the newer chiropractors don't always want to be super busy, which is fine. That's where they are in their life. I would like to be super busy. I'm pretty busy. I'm not as busy as I probably could be or should be. I'm working through that. I hustled in my first year, 2 years. I did reach one of those levels that you were talking about, but I find myself plateauing in this. This is a pretty big number, 500 to 1 million, but it's totally attainable. If others can do it, you can do it. So let's break that down a little bit more, because there's going to be a lot of doctors that are listening to the podcast that are in that stage. What would you say one of the key factors to breaking the 1 million point? What would that be?
The 500 to 1 million stage, I think, is really about team. And 500 a year is a lot for one practicing doctor to see. Like, it's possible to see, like, to collect like 6, 7, 800,000 if you are by yourself. To break $1 million though, it's pretty tough to do without a pretty good team around you, whether that's associates or front desk staff, office manager. If you're going to try to make $1 million or collect $1 million by yourself, that's going to take a lot of work. So you better have somebody who can handle like the admin stuff. If you do insurance, you better have somebody for that. But also, like, that's just a lot of patients to see, and that can be tough on your body. So having an associate to start helping to maintain that, I think the team is really what matters, and just becoming a leader, like what we talked about. Like, I think that that's where leadership really starts to be the kind of the separating factor from the people who stay there and who keep accelerating. But I do want to say one thing. You mentioned, docs that don't want to, like younger docs that don't want to be as busy. And there's so many different ways to, you could work. Take, for example, my office, my chiropractic office. I spend 3 days a month in the practice. I live 3.5 hours away from my practice. So I spend 3 days a month in my practice. And on a weekly basis, I probably spend less than 5 hours, like, actively doing something for the practice, just because all the systems are in place, right? So just because you don't want to see, like, oh, I don't want to see 300 people a week. Great. I don't see anybody a week. I see 0 people a week, right? But my practice sees over 300 people a week across the different services. So just because you personally don't want to adjust X amount of people doesn't mean that you shouldn't be trying to serve your community at the highest level. Most of these doctors that make it to like the really high level, the Dane Donahues, the Michael Viscarellis of the world, those people aren't seeing patients on a regular basis. They're like running other businesses that help chiropractors grow their practices, but their individual practices, they may only be in there adjusting patients 1 or 2 days a week, and they could see however many they want to see. But when you keep yourself limited to, I only want to, I don't want to see a whole lot of people, I don't want to be too busy, I think that just becomes like a self-limiting thing, where if you don't want to be busy, like, the universe is going to make sure you're not that busy.
Yeah. You're putting out that energy and that frequency. I'm someone that really wants to be as let's say it this way. I want to optimize my time while I'm in the practice, and that means giving my best service with the time capacity that I have. And even that, like you were talking about with the Dane Donahues and Michael Viscarellis, they're becoming more of the CEOs, I guess, within their practice, and they're stepping back and they're creating the teams to really facilitate something bigger and creating a practice that can see more people. And I'm right with you there. Like, we got into such a great profession where we can do so much for people. Why not try to optimize it as best you can? So, Doc, if you want to let docs know how they can connect with you, or
we missed the $1 million+ section.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. My bad. Go ahead.
That's the most important one, right?
That is the most important. I guess I'm limited right now in my thinking.
The people that make it to $1 million and stay above there, I feel like they are always investing in themselves and in their practices. So when you get to get to $1 million, you've got the systems in place, you've got the team in place, you know how to get new patients, you know how to convert them, you know how to retain them, you know how to build a team. But to stay above $1 million, that's where I really feel like, because things are always changing, just like in life, that you always have to just be evolving as a person and as a business owner. And whether that means, staying up to date on marketing or getting more training to become a better leader or personal development, whatever that is, it's like the people that are really doing it, I think that those people are just, they always are like, you feel like they're special. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not like that they're any different than the people that maybe aren't at that success level financially in a practice. But I think that they feel special because it's like they're usually super positive. They're investing their time and their money and their energy on being the best practice and being the best person that they can be.
Yeah. I think when I was watching one of your videos there with the one with Gary Vee, one thing that he was saying that is you have to start building a brand as well.
For sure.
And he used something, like creating something like the local Geico, if you will, and getting people to really understand who you are and what the brand is about. But more so, I would think too, especially for docs in practice right now, is you have to build a brand around yourself. And I'm on the of the thinking of you should be building the brand of the company. But I think I'm just in a unique situation because I'm an IC within a practice, so I am kind of selfishly, in a sense, building my own brand within a brand. So you make it work with what you can. But is there a 2 million mark?
I mean, I've had people on the practice that are over 2 million, but I feel like that's probably like the 1% of the 1%. Like 2 million is a tough number to get to in a chiropractic practice. I feel like even the most successful tend to top out at like 1.5, 1.6. Mm-hmm. But what ends up happening, I think, is chiropractic is for people that are like true bred entrepreneurs, and like to build a practice that big, it's hard to do without some kind of like entrepreneurial strain in your DNA. Yeah. I think that people tend to start, not that they couldn't build a $2, $3, $4 million practice, but I think that they start to get the itch on, other chiropractors start asking them like, oh, how did you do it? And so they start coaching companies or marketing agencies or whatever to share, because it's so much more leverageable, especially if you're selling information. To be able to take, like I'm leaving this Friday for Stephen Franson's event, The Remarkable Practice. And that guy ran for 20 years, ran a 1,000 person a week clinic. And you think that he doesn't have some ideas on how to get new patients, how to convert them, how to retain them, how to build a team. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of chiropractors, I hear people getting kind of salty of like, oh, we eat our young and we're always trying to like take money out of the profession. It's like, no, we're trying to build the profession up. Like the best of the best are usually the ones that open up coaching programs or open up services or marketing agencies because they're good at the thing that they do. Like you asked earlier, like, how do you hire somebody? Like, how do you hire a marketing agency or a coach? It's like, look at their successes, look at their, I'm sure at this point they should have testimonials if they're any good. But you can usually tell if somebody knows what they're talking about or if they're just like bullshit, So I think that just having a good sense of what it is that you're looking for, and does it seem like this person is the right fit for you at this stage of your career? I've gone through multiple coaching programs, and at each stage they were the right fit. But now, where I'm at now, they wouldn't be the right fit. Does that make sense? So you just kind of find the thing that fits for you right now. And so I think that all of these people, if chiropractic was more scalable and leverageable, I think that we would have 4, 5, $10 million clinics. We would probably have like chiropractic hospitals. But because chiropractic is not dentistry and we don't have like $1,000 treatment, it's hard for like a business person to like see it. The only like real scalable thing, I guess, is to implement multiple practices, but you got to be like real special to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. You're going to be managing, like you said, multiple practices, multiple people within those practices. You're becoming like I
can't even imagine how hard that would be.
Yeah. Well, I think there might be a few people doing that. I know of a few people, but again, you have to be really special, I think, at that point.
Chiro, I'm here in Chicago, and Chiro One, I think it's Stu Bernstein. He, he has, I think, over 100 clinics.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Sold to private equity at one point and is like gonna do it again at some point. But that dude is like vibrating on a whole different level when it comes to business. Like that takes a real skill set. I'm not talking about 2 or 3 practices. When I say scalable, I mean something that like a private equity firm would be interested in, like they do with dentistry, where they can buy up 500 offices for $1.2 billion or whatever. That just doesn't exist in chiropractic.
Now here, let's go here, Doc, because I want to respect your time, and I do have an interview right after this, but I want to get to know you a little bit more. I know you're not physically adjusting too many people right now, maybe the odd few, but 0, not even your family?
I live with my girlfriend. My family's in Springfield, but my family goes into the office, but my girlfriend will talk me into an adjustment.
That's fair. So let's go here then. Like, what inspires you to keep doing this for people, to even just serve the community? Because it sounds like, just getting to know you over this last half hour, is that you are very more so entrepreneurial. What keeps you entrepreneurial in wanting to serve the chiropractic profession? So just to give you guys a little bit of peek behind the curtain of, like, if you have wondered about why are there so many digital marketing agencies for chiropractors now? Like 3 years ago when I started, there were basically none, but these courses started coming out teaching people how to run Facebook ads for local businesses. Mm-hmm. And so all these people that were like failed insurance salesmen now are digital marketing experts for chiropractors. The reason why there's so many for chiropractors is because we all went to chiropractic school and we're easy to find on Facebook. That's why you get so many friend requests from marketing agencies. Yeah. But as soon as what am I looking for? As soon as like a plastic surgeon would pay $4,000 a month instead of $1,500 a month from chiropractors, they'll move on to plastic surgeons. If they can get as many plastic surgeon clients as they can get chiropractic clients, they're moving on to the next thing. They do not care about chiropractic. They don't care. Like, as soon as it becomes difficult, as soon as Facebook ads stop working to where it's profitable for chiropractors, they'll move on to the next thing. They'll become cryptocurrency experts or real estate or something, right? With me, it's like, I'm a chiropractor. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I will be running a marketing agency for chiropractors until the day I die. Just because, the same way that I'll have a chiropractic practice that I own until the day that I die. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe I don't grow it to as big as I once thought I would, but I will always be helping chiropractors with marketing, because that's the thing that I know the best, and that's the thing that I'm the most passionate about. And I'm passionate about chiropractic and people getting under chiropractic care. And I think the biggest hurdle that we face as a profession is getting our message out. When we talk to people about whether it's a spinal screening or a dinner talk, or just in your office, when you talk to somebody about what chiropractic is, when you tell them the chiropractic story, they innately understand it and believe it and trust the message. That message just needs to get out more, and the modern ways of communicating with people are through content, through social media, through the internet. And so that's what we're helping people with right now. Mm-hmm. If that evolves, if the internet, disappears tomorrow, we'll be helping chiropractors get the message out in some offline way, some other way. Like, we do all kinds of different ways to help chiropractors get their message out. It depends on what your practice needs in particular. But that's what keeps me fired up about the agency in particular, is that the brick and mortar office in Springfield, Illinois, only allows me to serve so many people in Springfield, Illinois. The agency allows me to help people all over the world get more chiropractic care by sharing the expertise of our clients. Okay, well, if anyone would like to hit you up for your services, where can they go to?
So if you are interested in doing a strategy session with me, you can go to contentintopatients.com. So content like content marketing, contentintopatients.com. On the strategy session, it's like a real strategy session, not just a sales pitch for what I do, but I go through your website, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Google presence, and your YouTube channel. And I just give you, if you're doing something, I'll tell you like what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, opportunities you're missing out on. And then at the end of that, if it makes sense, we'll set up another call to where we can talk specifically about what it is that we do. But that first call is really about just providing value for the person I'm on the call with. And then if you want to follow me at Dr. Nick Silveri on Facebook or Instagram, so it's Dr. Nick Silveri. That's where I put content out every day that just helps with growing a practice and content marketing and just marketing in general. And then we have the Path to $1 Million podcast as well that we do daily episodes with.
Cool. Well, Doc, I'm definitely gonna have you on here once again if you're cool with that. I feel like there's a big brain in there to pick. So.
Well, I apologize. I talk so much that I apologize for running over our time.
But. No, absolutely. I'm wanting to go into like 2.5 hours if I possibly can, but over the internet it's a little bit harder to do that. For the Winnipeg, because I'm based out of Winnipeg, Canada here, and for the Winnipeg docs, I might try to venture into doing like 2.5 hour episodes, so we can just like get into the meat of it. But sometimes it takes a little bit while to warm up to the conversation. But yeah, I'd love to have you on here again sometime. And for anyone listening, I've been listening to Dr. Nick's stuff for the last week and a half or so, just trying to get to know the guy and getting to know what he's doing for the profession. And he is doing amazing work, I would say. And he's had a big interview with Dr. Gary Vee. I just downloaded it today. I haven't got into that. I got a few snippets of it, but it so far has been well worth just even tuning into. So, Dr. Nick, if you have any parting words, it'd be great.
I would just say, get your story out there, help as many people as possible, grow your practice, because when you grow your practice, you can help more people in your community, and the more you can get your story out, the easier it is to help people.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Nick, thank you so much for joining us on the Chiro Inspired Podcast today, my friend. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm sure we'll be in contact again. If I'm ever in Chicago, I'll definitely hit you up too. I'll send you a message at least.
Yeah.
Fair? Awesome, man. Well, pleasure. We'll see you next time, man.